Perfect. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. Thanks, Nancy.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, y'all, I am so honored, Tracy, uh, to interview you today. You have no idea how long I have admired you, and your commitment to the YMCA, and how you live out your faith. So this is huge for me personally. And then also that you would do this on your last official day as a YMCA employee.
Yes, I know. This is the best. So thank you. Thank you,
Yeah,
Melissa.
yeah. So thank you.
Hey,
Um,
before we get started, I do want to say, y'all, Melissa Logan, very kind words, but Melissa, everybody, if you don't know, just, go visit Blue Ridge Assembly. You talk about servants. I'm telling you, you talk about servants, you go to Blue Ridge Assembly and you see the servant in the staff, and they serve you well. So Melissa, well done as a leader and as a Y leader, and gosh, how you all serve and show up every day for groups that come in. Thank you for what you're doing. It's unbelievable. So if you want to learn anything, go to Blue Ridge Assembly. There you go.
Well, no, thank you. But this isn't about me or about Blue Ridge. It's about you. And so let's put the spotlight on you, and tell us how you were called to work for the YMCA.
Yeah, good question. And as you ponder, these past couple of weeks, just pondering, my career and everything. I grew up in Indianapolis, Indiana, for those who are in Indiana, and I went to Purdue University and really found, my savior at Purdue. But really, a seed was planted in Young Life, and I went to Young Life not for about Jesus, because there was a lot of pretty girls there, so that's what you do in high school. But that planted a seed in my life, and so grew my faith at Purdue. Was a volunteer leader at Young Life, and what Young Life taught me was it was all about relationships, and so that really just was part of my DNA. And worked at Camp Seagull and Seafair during the summers for 6 summers, and that's part of the YMCA Triangle here in Raleigh's 2 camps, coastal camps. And grew my faith there. It was just a wonderful place to work, and it was just fantastic. Got my first glimpse of really truly what a YMCA is, other than sneaking into a YMCA facility. But I just remember really distinctly, there was one week, got married, was working in a mental health hospital. My wife was working in retail at the time. We just got out of college. And then I get this phone call from Doug McMillan. Doug McMillan has just retired as the CEO for the past 38 years at the YMCA of the Triangle, but I met him at camp. And then the next night, I got a call from a pretty large Presbyterian church to be a youth pastor, and they were going to send me to full ride to Princeton to get my seminary degree. And so all in 1 week, I had these job opportunities. Do I go to Raleigh, North Carolina to be a youth director, the youth director in the Raleigh YMCA? Or do I go into ministry into the church? And I just remember when I talked to my wife, just saying, honey, I just don't think I'm called in the church. I think the broader reach to people, to love people for the gospel, I believe, is in the YMCA. I'm going to be able to work with all sorts of people that come through the YMCA doors. And I just remember that day, and so flew down to Raleigh right the night, the day before they just won the national championship at NC State. And I think I went through an interview with Doug, but I think he just offered me a job. Flew back and we drove, and the rest is history. And it's been a great story. It's given me life here in the YMCA of the Triangle, the YMCA across the country. So and life to the fullest. I've never regretted a day. There have been hard days, but I've never regretted a day. So I really heard, strongly from the Lord, the YMCA is where you need to be. So that's kind of my story.
Yeah, I love it. And I love that concept of the broader reach.
Yeah.
Right. That you can have. and you've done that through your career when we think about your engagement and involvement in Christian emphasis as well. So share a little bit about that. It's an
Yeah,
amazing journey.
yeah. And, there might be some people that, I journeyed with on this, and David Bird and a couple, Mike Buss, and just a couple, you, Melissa, but I'm a convener. Kind of my gift set is I'm a convener. I love to influence. I'm very intentional about things, and I'm high relational, because I learned that from the ministry of Young Life, and just and so bringing folks together to grow together, and just really again, I just wanted to bring people together. So a long time ago, we met this guy named Eric Ellsworth, and everybody knows Eric, right? And we just started talking. So it was never about me, it was about we. Anything to do anything significant, I think God calls a group of people. And so it wasn't me, so it was we. And one thing led to another. We did this newsletter to feed those who had faith in Jesus Christ in the YMCA, called the Dunamis newsletter. And we did that for about 6 or 7 years. Then we wanted to do a conference, and because there was all these conferences, but there was no conference to really fill the spiritual tank of leaders who so choose one to get their tanks full. And so we started the John 17:21 conference, and that lasted about 6 to 7 years. And I'll just stop there really quick. But those two things, that was a leap of faith, because we had no money, we had a vision. And so, but we had each other, and we had some relationships around the country. And I will say, at every conference and every newsletter, God showed up and provided. I mean, there's times where this conference is costing, back in the day in the early 2000s, $70,000, $80,000. And where's that money going to come from? And you got to have sponsorships, and God would always provide. And then one thing led to another into, we sunsetted the John 17:21, went into the U.S. Mission Network, had a couple conferences. The book, the organizational heart, strengthening the organizational heart. David Bird wrote a chapter. I had this vision of, again, not me, just walking around the pond. I want this book because John R Mott had 15, things that he left the YMCA for us to remember. And I said, I can't write 15 chapters. And so I knew 14 people, and I didn't have the 15. And then I said, okay, I'm number 15. So all of us joined together to write this book, and it's very, very successful. And I think it blessed a lot of YMCA directors. And, U.S. Mission Network, there were a lot of opportunities for chaplains to get together, and mission advancement directors started to grow. And I mean, friends like, leaders like, Josh Heaston and David Newman and Janelle Nelson, and so forth. So just, you get more people involved in this movement, and things start to churn. So, and after the U.S. Mission Network, I remember being on a phone call with Janelle and a couple of others, and we just decided, and Janelle volunteered, took the chance, and said, let me take everything, and then we'll do this monthly or every other month call. And now here we are, being Christ present in the Y, calls, and it's blessed me. I've been on many, and I'm sure it's blessed a lot. So again, that's kind of the story. Again, it wasn't me, but it was a we thing. But it was an opportunity, for us to just get out of the boat and have faith that God would bless things.
Right.
And really quick, one other thing, just again, when you get out of the boat, Eric Ellsworth said, come to this conference in 1999. So what conference? Well, it was the Willow Creek Global Leadership Summit. So I brought TJ, and I think there was only about 4 or 5 of us really in the Y that went to this conference back in 1999. But then one thing leads to another, and then now there's hundreds and hundreds, and our Y leaders are going to the Global Leadership Summit. So just for you all on the phone call, get out of the boat. Trust God, get people around you, surround people around you. So that's a lesson learned for me as I was moving through the Y. So.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. It's a we, not me. And then the other thing I heard, Tracy, is that you didn't fall in love with the vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
You fell in love with the heart to serve people, to connect and to convene. And I think That's really powerful. And did that these last 40, I'm giving you 40 years, probably 40 plus years of service. And so it's phenomenal. When I think about your time and your career, you've also had transitions within the organization, right? Within what was at one time the Raleigh YMCA, right? And then I think Durham came into the mix, and then Chapel Hill. And so just an opportunity to merge association culture. And so what encouragement and guidance kind of would you give us about staff cultures? And then also these bookends that you've talked about before around Christian principles and the for all.
Yeah, so I just, in my career, I've had the opportunity to, start wise, build wise, close wise, partner wise, and David Bird's on this call. I mean, he's the hero in the merger of the Durham YMCA and the Raleigh YMCA back in the day, because he put aside his pride and said, "Hey, we need help, and let's merge the two organizations." So again, it's a we, not me, or not us here in the Raleigh Y. And so hats off to David, because Durham is thriving now, and he saw that. He saw the vision in the future. And then also the Chapel Hill YMCA there soon after. And I think if you have a strong mission and purpose, you have a strong culture, a culture of empathy, a culture of learning, culture of let's listen and care about people. It's easy for people from outside of the culture to come on in. And change is hard. So we had to recognize the change. People, were disrupting their lives. Durham coming in to the Raleigh Y, and Chapel Hill coming into the Raleigh Y, we're disrupting their flow of work or how they do things. And so, walking purposefully, hearing, listening, promising their jobs will not go away, which was a very expensive way to do it. The jobs would not go away. And so just caring about the staff. So I think if you know your why, I'm not talking about the Y in YMCA, I'm talking about WHY. I think if, and we knew our why, I mean, if you know your why, then the what, becomes very impactful. And I think that's how we merged. Now, I'm not saying there were not challenges along the way. I'm not saying that people didn't like that, because that is just human nature. But we tried to love and care and move forward and practice our mission. And that is put Christian principles into practice, right? As we merged for all. And listen, now they learned a lot from us, and we learned a lot from them. And so we brought some culture nuggets over from Durham, from Chapel Hill, changed some things, and because of what we, learned from them. So, and again, these bookends, and you referenced it. It's the way I see it today. Things have changed over time, and I just say the bookends of Christian principle and for all have to work together. It can't just be a for all organization, and it can't be just a Christian principle organization and single-minded and closed out. And the Christian principles are the power source, and the for all part is the love source. I mean, we get to reach out and love, and they have to work together. And I know a lot of Ys around the country are trying to balance this Christian principles and the diversity, equity, inclusion part of things. And how do we work together? And I believe if we find that middle ground and work together and move forward, the Y will be a continued force for good. So, it can be a very powerful thing. Personally, I'm passionate about my beliefs. But this is an organizational thing when I say the bookends of Christian principles and for all, because that's our mission statement. We can't ignore one piece over the other piece. They have to blend together and work together. So we did that in merging the two Ys. Chapel Hill was a little bit different culture than we were. Same thing with Durham. And so we try to navigate that even to this day. So I hope that helps. Don't know if that does or not, but that's what we did. So, Melissa?
Did we lose Melissa?
Melissa, are you on mute, Melissa?
I think her internet went out.
Yeah.
Well, Tracy, so when you think about where Christian emphasis could go in the Y, the Y continues to grow and adapt, and Christian emphasis has adapted since George Williams, and it's adapted since John Mott, and I'm sure it's adapted since you started almost half a century ago. So where do you see it going so that Christianity and the Y can flourish and continue to get better at being for all?
Yeah, Tim, I mean, you're an expert on this. I learned a lot from Tim Holman. I mean, he is, we all hear these words, but, look at the words. We want to create a welcoming atmosphere for all people. We want to create people to come in and belong. And how do you do that? I mean, that's the love of Christ. You can do that individually, and you can do that as a corporate YMCA entity. And maybe if you're in your Y is not as, Christian principled centric as you would like, you can make a difference by creating belonging and welcoming, as well as Christ's presence in your YMCA. So I just think it's, having that environment and where people feel comfortable to explore, spiritual matters and growing their Christian faith, if they so choose. And that's what we do here at the YMCA Triangle. If you so choose, we're going to lay out this table. You can explore Christian principles if you'd like, but we are always trying to be welcoming and belonging. And we constantly are working on that because, people look at it differently, different lens. And so we're constantly trying to massage that and change and adapt like I'm learning. So.
Well, so how did your experience in Jerusalem with the onPrinciple program? I mean, there we got to meet Palestinian Christians doing work in very adverse and very challenging scenarios. How do you feel like that both affirmed your faith and stretched your faith?
Yeah, stretched for sure. And at 64 years old and being, walking with Jesus for 22 years, it continues to stretch my faith. And this was one experience. I don't know if you all know, onPrinciple, equips Y leaders to live out the Christian principles in an ever-changing world. And how do we do that? And that's what onPrinciple is all trying to do, is equip the leaders. Also networking as well as teaching leaders to, about adaptive leadership. And it's a 2-year program. And part of the mountaintop experience is leading us and preparing us to go to Jerusalem and to the International Jerusalem YMCA is where we stayed. And, there are 3 areas really quick, Tim, that stretched me. One is walking where Jesus walked, hearing sermons and sermonettes, every place where Jesus maybe preached or washed the feet or the Sermon on the Mount. Or in the garden and or where he's carrying the cross, and we would stop, pause, hear a word from the Lord, and that was so impactful. And I will say we were not tourists; we were adventurers, and this was a lot of heavy lifting and a challenging trip, but that really soothed my soul. And then we saw the incredible work internationally. The East Jerusalem YMCA, the Palestinian YMCAs, doing some incredible work, on the other side of the wall in Israel, and with less, y'all. I mean, a lot of us might have big budgets or medium budgets, but they do so incredible work, and they love their work, and they're passionate about their work, and they have less to do with it, less means, but their passion and their hearts go out to their people. And we saw some incredible leaders there. And then it stretched me going across the West Wall into Palestine and seeing displaced neighborhoods there, where people were angry that they got displaced and put into this Palestinian neighborhood, and that they built a wall and separated them and took away their property. And so there's two stories on both sides, and the conflict is real. And we learned a little bit about peacemaking, and that stretched us to listen to the hearts. But I believe only Jesus, only God will heal that country. So it was powerful. And then another way it stretched is being with 38 leaders who love Jesus, who cares about the why, who cares about, the belonging and the welcoming of the YMCA, the for all for the YMCA, as well as Christian principles. What a challenging trip. Mike Bussey, thank you for that. Thank you for that. So.
Yeah, well, it was, I got to know you a little bit better on that trip. And I think that was probably, a highlight is just so many leaders getting to know each other, just in ways that, can be recreated anywhere else.
Yeah, yeah.
Melissa, welcome back.
So
I know
sorry.
I know you were ready to pick up where you left off, so we enjoyed this unplanned interlude.
No, I love it. I love it, and I'm so glad, because that was one of the things I wanted to hear more about was onPrinciple and that trip to the Holy Land. Tracy, share, if you would, in the last few minutes that we have. I have a couple more questions for you. So I would love to hear the bright spots from your career.
Wow, good question. So, again, I could say, growing this YMCA, building buildings and all that. And Melissa, you taught me this. It's not about the buildings, it's about the people. So, it's just the opportunity to speak in people's lives, to lead in a way to care, and build lifelong friendships. To really speak into volunteers. We all have volunteers, in our YMCAs, to really lock arms with them and, care for them. I would say those are the highlights. Building friendships around the country. Y'all, if you're in the Y, don't just stay in your Y. Try to reach out to the country, because you learn from everybody. Reach out there, and there's people out there that care about you, and so I'm just an intentional guy, but just having lifelong friendships around the country in the YMCA. So just seeing the mission and the action, and at this YMCA, the culture that we have built, and again, we have our challenges, but the culture that we built, I'm very proud of. Because culture eats strategy all day long. You've heard that over and over and over again. So, and I've had a hand in building that culture. Doug has allowed me to be the culture kind of king. So,
what would you go back and tell your 20-year-old self?
Wow, gosh. Okay. Well, I would say, just opportunities to, I don't know. Walk through the halls slowly is something. I'm ADD, I'm fast paced and all that. And I just remember, the first 4 or 5 years, there was an older gentleman that just stopped me, and he worked at the YMCA, and just, young man, walk slowly, stop and talk to people. So I wish I did that better. And I'm learning that still to this day. Pray without ceasing. I mean, this is, there's magic in the mess, but this is hard and messy work. And, I'm learning to pray without ceasing. And so I wish I had a better prayer life back when I was young, and still working on my prayer life. But, I always say now, pray without ceasing, learning about your self-talk, which really is praying. When I'm talking to myself, I'm talking to the Lord. So, those are a couple things. So anyway, so loving God, loving people, having that concept early on, and so forth. And the last thing I'll say, Melissa, really quick, it's not always need to, you early in your life, you need to be right. You be right, make a mark. Not being right, it's about getting it right. And that's what I've learned over the years. I don't have to be right, but we want to get, the right solution. So let's all come together and debate and have that healthy conflict to get to the right solution. And it doesn't have to be my solution. So
Yeah.
be right.
Yeah, I love that. So today is your last day in the office because you're retiring.
Yep.
Which is a big decision, right?
Yep.
So this isn't, I'm going to ask so how and when did you retire? And I ask the question because it's a big life decision, right? And so no matter where we are in our career, we're going to have big moments and intersections to make decisions. And so how and why, what led you to this decision?
Well, and our time is running out, but really quick, I mean, nothing new under the sun, y'all. It's just spending time with God. I have a personal board of directors, and really they're truth tellers to me. They're refrigerator friends that will tell you the truth. And they helped me walk through this. I had some friends as they put a stake in the ground, and I just knew it was time. I mean, solitude is the furnace of transformation. Being still with God will transform your heart. And you hear God whispers, it's time, it's time. And ever since I kind of put the stake in the ground, I mean, God is opening some amazing doors. I can't, we don't have enough time to explain, but beyond the why, I mean, I hear him, I got you. I haven't, you're not done yet. So anyway, it just, I just know God is with me. And I tell people retirement, everybody knows that, but I'm graduating to something different. And so been very intentional the past year to prepare myself for this, taking classes, talking to people around the country, to some friends. And so that's what I've been doing. And I just know God is in there. I have never felt this at peace in a big decision like this ever. And I'm very, very at peace with it.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. Thank you. This, I have a page of notes, Tracy. Thank you for sharing your heart and your learnings and the honest truth.
Yeah.
Right. To help us forge ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So
amazing
people on this call. Stick with it.
That's awesome. And thank you, Melissa, for interviewing Tracy. And Tracy, thank you. I love your comment, graduating to something different. That is just beautiful.